Welcome to the InfoSec Insider podcast, brought to you by URM, the UK's leading information and cybersecurity specialists.
Hi, my name's Annie and I'm here today with George Ryan, who's a consultant with us at URM. Welcome to another episode of InfoSec Insider Talk Cyber. So today we're going to be discussing the relationship between the Lexcel Practice Management Standard, the Specialist Quality Mark or SQM, and the Cyber Essentials Scheme. So first of all, George, what exactly are Lexcel and the SQM and why are they needed?
So both of these are assurance standards within the legal sector, and both of them, and it can be either one of them, are required to hold a contract with a legal aid agency.
So it's either one, you don't need both of them?
No, so as long as you've got one of them, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
The Lexcel is from the Law Society, whereas the SQM is the legal aid agency's own one itself.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for clearing that one up, George. And what do they have to do with cybersecurity exactly?
So as part of both of the standards, they both have a little section which covers information management. So in Lexcel, this is under Section 3, Information Management, and in the SQM, it's under Section F, and it's their Requirement 6, which is Information Handling. So as part of that, they both cover the need for having a data protection officer, as well as procedures for protection of personal data. And within this extends to kind of regular secure practices such as updating operating systems, making sure passwords are used, virus protection, etc. So Lexcel actually extends upon that and requires a information management and security policy, and a little few extra things such as an asset register. Within both of these, although it's not mandatory, they both recommend Cyber Essentials is in place.
Okay, amazing. So you mentioned Cyber Essentials there. Why would it be beneficial to have that in place?
Yeah, so although not mandatory, it's heavily recommended by both of the standards. And in fact, it's actually in recent ICO action against the law firm, they did note about the firm not having Cyber Essentials at the time that happened. The kind of inclusion of that is because it's a government-run scheme by the NCS, and then ASME, the ones responsible for it, and it covers kind of 80% of the most basic attacks in terms of controls. So the reason it's kind of included in both the standards is because by having your Cyber Essentials, you're inevitably covering off quite a few of the questions asked by the standards and a few of the requirements. So Cyber Essentials, for example, it will cover the usage of firewalls, secure configuration, secure updates, user access control, malware protection, ensuring that where possible, multi-factor authentication is used, which is really, kind of really handy for giving more of a direction, because when you do read both the standards, it's not massively explicit in what needs to be done. It's kind of quite vague, a bit ambiguous, whereas this is definitely more of a guided path to it. So in terms of benefits, obviously you've got the fact that you are essentially hitting the standard, and you're going to be probably making it more streamlined as well when you are achieving the standard, because if you've got a Cyber Essentials certificate, that would display to someone auditing you against the standard that, well, actually you have these things in place, otherwise you wouldn't have said certificate. In addition to that, obviously, that is another way of verifying your commitment to security. So whilst you have the standard, you would also be able to then have your Cyber Essentials certificate, which really comes in handy when it comes to potentially suppliers asking you about how do we know you're secure, your commitment to security. You can go, well, not only have we got this standard, but we've actually got a certificate to say we're compliant to Cyber Essentials, which I believe in the supplier management Cyber Essentials covered, they did actually note that a number of practices, firms, not just in the legal sector, but just in general, just found it was way easier to be able to actually say to their supply chain, we've got Cyber Essentials. It actually made that process more streamlined.
Perfect. Thank you, George. I suppose it's not just about getting that contract with the legal aid agency. It's also got those benefits well beyond that, in terms of getting new clients on board, showing to them that you are committed to cybersecurity. So the benefits are just significant, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So once law firms have completed their cyber essentials, is there anything else they can do to strengthen their security further?
Yeah, so I guess obviously the next logical step would be Cyber Essentials Plus, which doesn't have any more requirements than are in Cyber Essentials, but it would just be that level up where a technical auditor is going to verify you are doing what you're saying, for example. Like with that, you would also have a vulnerability scan, so that allows your firm just to see if there's any actual vulnerabilities you have that maybe someone could exploit. So it really just allows a bit more of an overview. For some firms, it may be that you decide you've now got your kind of baseline, your foundation in security, and you want to further that. And with that, you may take on another framework. So ISO 27001, for example, even for those that don't want to go to, say, Plus or ISO 27001, there are elements from that you can take. So obviously, we've already mentioned the vulnerability scan. That's something you could do once you've got your Cyber Essentials certificate, just to make sure. Equally, some of the components of 27001 can be undertaken without actually achieving 27001 if you need to do so. So, for example, this may be performing a risk assessment just to see kind of what risks you have, whether there's ways you can mitigate them, completely get rid of them, transfer them to a third party, etc. This might also be running business continuity exercises to check that were the worst thing to happen. Okay, can we carry on? How would we carry on? You also have your supplier management. So, you've got Plus, you're demonstrating your commitment to security. It might then be time that, okay, actually, we want to see who we're working with. How do we know they're secure? How do we know they're securely handling our data? What are they doing? Because, they are essentially an extension of your organization's security at that point. Further, the things such as the usage of AI. So you may then decide, okay, this is great. How are we actually using new things in our organization, like artificial intelligence? Are we using them without realizing? Are we potentially putting personal data into that? Okay, let's have a look. Do we need a policy? Do we need something clear on what can or can't be used? Equally, another thing you could start looking at is actually having detection. So for Cyber Essentials, for example, that doesn't actually cover having a detection function. So you may now decide, okay, we've got our Cyber Essentials. How are we actively making sure we can detect any threats and then act upon them? That may then further you into going into kind of incident management. So, okay, we've got a detection facility here. How should we prepare to be able to respond to that, were that to happen? Have we got a plan of responding to an incident here? Do we know what we do, what roles would be, what would happen, how we'd communicate, etc. So yeah, there's way more things that could be done, as is with security. But essentially what the Cyber Essentials as part of gaining the standard is doing is it's giving you that kind of first steps, that bit of direction that can then be built upon.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your time today, George. And for those of you who would like to learn a bit more about this, we've got a blog on our website, urmconsulting.com, called Understanding Lexcel and the Specialist Quality Mark, SQM, How Cyber Essentials Can Benefit Your Practice. So do go and give that a read, and thank you very much for listening today. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could spare a moment to leave a rating or review at ratethispodcast.com/InfoSec Insider. To listen to more episodes, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Podbean.
Thank you for listening to URM's InfoSec Insider podcast. For more information, visit our website at urmconsulting.com.